are big changes coming to the East Baton Rouge Parish School District. Some schools might close, others might merge, and it's all a part of Superintendent LaMont Cole's big realignment plan. He actually joins me in the WBRZ studios right now to give us the details. Good morning, Superintendent.
Good morning. How are you?
I am good, and I'm thankful that you're here with us today just to talk to us about this big plan that you announced yesterday at the board meeting, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yesterday was a great day to talk about changes we need to make in order to better serve our students. So I'm excited to be here and have an opportunity to share a little bit with you and the viewing audience about our plans moving forward. Students first.
Now, let's start from the biggest thing.
Okay.
Closures.
Yes.
How many schools are you planning to close, possibly, if this plan goes through?
Total of 9. Total of 9 schools we plan to close for the start of the 25-26 school year.
Now, why those 9? Why were those selected?
Well, we've had a series of community meetings with the community, as well as meetings with organizations and churches, and talking to individuals for the past 6 months. And based on the feedback we received through those conversations, and then using the data to determine what is best for our schools and what is the best path forward, and then working with our consultant, and then developing a scorecard for all of our schools. We looked at the data, heard the cries, heard the suggestions, and then we made some recommendations to the board based on all of that information. And I think the data is driving the recommendation. And we're not allowing, the thoughts, ideas, and feelings that some may have about these schools to dictate the decisions we're making. We do take that into consideration, but ultimately the data is what's driving this recommendation plan.
And I think a lot of people, you may have been a little concerned. Obviously, everyone will not be happy with the plan. But I think it's interesting because one of the schools on the list is actually Capital Middle School.
Absolutely.
And you have an emotional tie to it, don't you?
Absolutely. I attended Capital Middle School in the 80s. I was a teacher there in the 90s. I was the principal there in the early 2000s. So my relationship and connection to that institution goes back a long way, over 30 years. I met tremendous people there, Louis Bond, Alex Hayes, Bert Hazel, Self, Bonnie Collins, and the list goes on and on and on, of the individuals who I met and had an opportunity to learn from, and then had an opportunity to work with. And then some coached and helped me as a first-year principal, and so it's really a special place to me. However, over the last few years, we've not done the best job of providing the best education for the students there. And we find the school in a position where if the state wanted to transition the school to the RSD, the state superintendent could do so. And so, he and I have had a number of conversations about not only what's best for Baton Rouge, but what's best for the state. And I'm honored to be able to work with him to do some innovative things. But that particular school needs some attention. And at the same time, when we look right down the road about, 2.5 miles, we arrive at Capitol High School, which needs some attention as well. And so we believe the plan we have to consolidate those two institutions into one, and then provide better academic programming at the school, and then as well as provide incentives for teachers to want to work there. In addition to having a new location, we believe it'll be more attractive in a newer facility and attract families to want to return there. We believe putting Capital High School, Capital Middle School together is the best path forward in terms of providing education for the students in that area. What people should know is that the original Capital High School was once on Gus Young, which is right down the street from where the new Capital High School will be located.
And I think you also talked about how this could help transition the kids as they go from elementary, middle levels to the high school level with them being in the same building.
Absolutely. I think what we want to do is increase our feeder patterns in a way that allows for families to stay in the same area based on their choice. We know that the medical program sponsored by the Baton Rouge General at Park Elementary has been wildly successful. And we know we want to expand those opportunities for families in the area, for those students who want to take advantage of careers in the medical field. And so we see that it's been successful at Park We want to expand it across the entire area, and we want to make Gus Young the actual medical corridor for all of the students and families in the area. So we believe the transition that we've developed, the plan that we've developed, will allow the students to be able to transition from K all the way to 12 in a very robust academic environment with an option that gives them a path towards a career. And so we're excited about that plan and feel as if this is a path that no one has created for the families in that area before, and we're delighted to be able to do so. When I came into this position, I talked about innovation zones. This is the very example of an innovation zone based on what we see. Children having choice, families having choice in facilities that are upgraded with academic programming that is specific, that is popular, and that can lead to a career path should families continue in that particular field. So we're excited about that.
And I think, thank you for bringing that up, because I think one of the statistics is 71% of students impacted are moving to higher performing schools, and then 43% of students impacted are moving to better facilities. And you just talked about that. Now, why is that such an important thing for the kids to be able to have access to that?
71% are moving to higher quality seats. So I want to be clear about what that means. As we transition students to different environments, we think about the quality of the seat that a student is sitting in based on the facility, based on the academic programming, and most importantly, based on the teacher that is in front of them. And so when we think about a higher quality seat, we think about how do we ensure when children arrive at school, there's an adult there who cares about them, who is educated and prepared enough to educate them, and who is going to stay with them through that academic process, providing the support a student needs where he or she needs it. All of us don't learn the same. We don't learn at the same levels. We don't learn in the same way. Even in our realignment plan, we presented the information in multiple ways so multiple people could review the plan and could learn from it based on their academic point of need as best we could. And so we're trying to, in the plan, model exactly what we want to see in our schools. So when we say we putting kids in higher quality seats, it's a multitude of things. Now, 43% are going into better facilities, right? So 43% of the students that we are attempting to transition in the plan were in facilities that are fair or poor. And what we're attempting to do is put them in facilities that are good based on their deferred maintenance, how old the building is, and what exists in the building currently. As I said on yesterday, we need currently $130 million in order to repair all of the schools in our portfolio right now. We just don't have that. And if we continue down the path that we're on without addressing the physical plant needs we have, we're going to see the deferred maintenance costs continue to grow if we don't do something now. So we have to, in a sense, cut costs, then maintain the buildings we have that are good, and then figure out a way to identify financial resources to be able to do that. So we recognize closing schools is necessary. You know, we've gotten to a point as a result of a decline in terms of population as a result of people moving out of the city, a decline in birth rate as a result of people moving out of the city. We've gotten to a point now where doing nothing is not an option. We have to do something. Now, someone asked me last night, if we make these changes and parents start to flood back to our schools, what would we do then? And my response was, that'd be an excellent problem to have, and I look forward and I'm excited to be able to address that problem when it happens. But that is not happening right now, and we have to make some changes in order to attract families back to our school system, and I believe this is the right path forward.
Now, you just talked about that $130 million that the school needs just to refacilitate. But if this plan goes into action, then how much would y'all be saving?
We'll immediately cut $5.7 million in terms of deferred maintenance costs that we could use in other areas. We could take some of the money and then use it for deferred maintenance, but also, more importantly, we could take some of the money and use it for better academic programming. So we have a multifaceted plan, right? First is the recommendation, if approved, then it's the implementation, and then it's the optimization. And then when we get to that part of the plan, we start thinking about the future and what's to come as a result of having had an opportunity to transition students into better academic situations, and then thinking about how do we optimize that change so we can do it again. This won't be the last phase of realignment. We have to do it again. But when we do it again, will we be doing it for less students or will we be doing it for more students? So this is a continuous process that we can continuously repeat based on the needs of our students and our families who live in our community and attend our schools.
Now, we have been talking about the students because, once again, the keep first, what needs to be first.
Students first.
Yes, students are
Students
always
first. Absolutely.
Now, what about the teachers? I think a lot of teachers are concerned because I want to say more than 1,000 teachers will be affected by this plan. So what about those teachers who could be affected and those principals, assistant principals? What's the plan for that?
Let's talk first about teachers who are working in our schools that are perhaps going to be closed. We have a plan for those teachers. First and foremost, as soon as the board sees fit to approve this plan, immediately we're going to reach out to all of those teachers. We did on yesterday to let them know that this was going to be the recommendation, but if approved, we're going to reach out to them, and the first thing we're going to do is hold a very specific job fair just for them. And the first thing we want to do is give them an opportunity to transfer to schools where there are vacancies, should they want to do that. Our internal transfer period has passed, and those teachers perhaps weren't aware that their schools might close, so we want to give them that opportunity on May 8th. The second thing we're going to do after we give them the opportunity to transfer is talk about where the students are going and give them the option to follow the students. We would hope that teachers would want to follow their students to the new location to provide the support for the students where they're going to be so they can create a seamless transition. But in the event there aren't vacancies during that transition, we're going to give them a third option of applying and looking at vacancies at schools that exist in our portfolio. And so when that happens, we feel that we will be better prepared to decrease the number of vacancies we have. We recognize that this move is going to decrease our vacancies by 50. We have a little over 100 vacancies currently. We realize this move will decrease it by 50. And then in certain situations and in our foundation learning centers, we're going to allow 2 teachers to be, or 2 adults to be in every class. So we have a plan for those teachers. We didn't just think about this and then think about every aspect of the work. You asked about assistant principals and principals. And in teachers, I think we have to be clear, even including myself, we work for the East Baton Parish School System, and we are assigned to work at a school. That could change at any given moment. If you ask 90% of our school system if they've worked in more than one facility, they all would tell you yes, because you work for the system and things change and things happen. You're promoted, you transition to different grade levels. And so we recognize that movement is part of the process. So people retire, people transition, people are promoted. We recognize those things perhaps going to happen during the spring and summer. And so assistant principals and principals are going to be needed in certain buildings, and all of the ones I spoke with, because I met with them individually, are prepared to do so.
That's a lot.
It's a whole lot.
Now, as far as it goes with teachers, I thought one big interesting thing that you said was that 2 teachers to a classroom.
In our foundational learning centers. So what we've created in this plan as a result and in response to the new legislation around 3rd grade retention that was approved in the last legislative session, which means that if kids don't show grade level ability in 3rd grade dibbles, they could be retained, right? And so we recognize that a lot of our students struggle and are operating below grade level. And so we want to make sure that we do something to ensure our students are prepared when they get to 3rd grade. So we're going to pilot 2 foundation learning centers, right? One at Marydale and one at Melrose. And we believe, based on the research and the data of this model in other schools, both abroad and as well as here locally, and when I say abroad, I mean outside the lines of Louisiana, outside the lines of Baton Rouge, we see it working extremely well. Right here in town, we see it at U-High. We see it at some of our private institutions like Dunham and Episcopal, and we also see and recognize that it's working at one of our very own schools, Mayfair Labs. So we want to put 2 adults in a classroom before our teachers who have been well developed, supported, and consistent professional development provided for them at their school buildings so they can provide that support to students in a way that is going to put them on a path to grade level readiness so that when they enter third grade, they're prepared and ready to fly.
Something else that the plan addresses adding across the district is 13 specialty programs for learners. What are those programs and what are these specialties?
So they're a combination of different programs we are going to deploy in our schools. For far too long in the East Baton Rouge Parish school system, we operated from a position of haves and have-nots, right? We have dedicated magnet sites, and then we have traditional sites with magnet programs within, and then we have integrative programs at some sites. What we need to do and what we are attempting to do is provide every single one of our schools with an innovative program we believe will be attractive for families. Some of the programs are like expanding the medical program. Instead of having park in one area of town, one school with a medical program, we want to expand that to 5 schools. When we think about the Scotlandville area and we look at the relationship that Exxon has with Scotlandville High and the implementation of STEM with a particular focus on engineering, we want to expand that to all of the schools in the Scotlandville area so that we can increase the feeder patterns. When we think about AI and coding, we want to deploy those type of programs in some of our schools. When we think about performance-based learning, we want to deploy those types of programs in some of our schools. When we think about the Montessori program that has been wildly successful at Belfair and Dufrock, we want to expand opportunities for families to be educated in those programs. And so I think as we think about the 13 specialized programs you see there, at some of our sites that we are making some transitions, we are adding those programs to those academic programs to those facilities so that we make them more attractive for families and we increase the likelihood of students choosing to stay in the area where they begin their educational journey. And so we're excited about doing that and looking to expand and continue to do more. We visited schools in other cities. We had a whole host of teachers who just came back from California. A few of us visited schools in Miami, and we've seen models where thematic ideas are working in schools and are attractive for communities. So, we have a series of things we want to do going forward, which include listening to the community to understand what they like to see in their schools and then using the resources we've had to deploy those programs in those schools. And so we're super excited about the opportunity to be able to do that.
Another thing to address is the vacant buildings,
Absolutely.
like those buildings with those schools where they'll either be closing or merging. And my question would be, those vacant buildings, do you already have ideas or what's going to happen with that?
We do have some internal ideas. What we recognize is we need to work with the community where those buildings are located, as well as experts and professionals in our community who do this work. So I personally have had conversations with Jay Daniels at the Louisiana Housing Authority. I've had conversations with Chris Meyer at BRAF. I had conversations with BRAC. I've had some conversations with developers. People are excited about our willingness to collaborate with the larger community to think about how do we use these community assets, redevelop them so that they might become a source of hope for communities where these buildings are located. I have an idea to take one of the facilities and turn it into affordable housing for teachers, and we're able to use that to attract teachers. Last night, I had a conversation with someone in city government who said one of the things we should consider in terms of affordable housing for teachers is think about affordable housing for law enforcement. Maybe we do a partnership where we provide affordable housing for teachers and law enforcement at the same location, who then can provide the security for the affordable housing so teachers feel safe, particularly those young teachers who have young families. They feel safe in that environment. I think that would be tremendous as an asset or as an incentive for teachers to move to Baton Rouge, but as well as for law enforcement to move to Baton Rouge. And then we kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We know education is the deterrent for crime, and then we also recognize that having a law enforcement presence helps families to feel safer. And so not only would it be for those teachers, but it would also be for the neighborhood where this affordable housing could be located. And then we have to look at community need. What is it that a community might need? What is it that a community is lacking? And how could that school, where it was once a school, be a center and a resource for the community. So we want to work with the community to do that, want to hear ideas, and then want to think about how do we go forward. One of the things we don't want to do, and in our guiding principles we've committed ourselves to not doing, is leaving buildings vacant for far too long. We have some examples of where we've done that, and as a result of doing that, these facilities have deteriorated past their usefulness, and now we are at a point where we need to condemn and demolish those facilities, and we're planning to do that as well. We recognize we hadn't been good partners, we hadn't been good neighbors as a result of allowing those facilities to stay vacant for so long, and we're wanting to expedite the process to demolish some of those older facilities that have deteriorated past their useful life.
Now, this is an amazing plan. You have ideas for affordable living for teachers and even law enforcement. How long do you think that would take to get off the ground?
You know, it depends on those partners in the community and how willing they are to deploy their financial resources to an opportunity like this, how quickly we can work with our local, state, and federal delegations to provide funding for an idea like this. We recognize it's progressive, and for me, it's innovative. But more importantly, it's about what's best for families. It's about what's best for children. And if it helps to attract teachers to our community and it attracts law enforcement members to our community, it's a win-win. You know, I'll share with you first that I like to approach our mayor, Sid Edwards, about partnering to do something like this together. So you're hearing it from me before I even mention it to him. I like to say, hey, let's do this together. Let's do something new. Let's do something innovative. Let's take an old school, an older facility. Let's redevelop it to public housing for teachers, right? Affordable for teachers, affordable for law enforcement. Let's put an early learning center there. You know, the mayor's office has dollars for early childhood. We have funding for early childhood. We're working with an early childhood task force. Let's do something innovative and creative that can be a model for the rest of the country. And I think we have assets, right? We have facilities we can deploy an idea like this in. And I think this would be really groundbreaking and revolutionary for our city. And I think it would show that as we start connecting the dots in terms of the systems we work in and stop working in silos, we can do what's best for our residents, particularly in areas where they need us the most.
Well, Superintendent, you have only been the superintendent how many months now?
157 days, 157 days.
You've done a lot in those 157.
Not enough.
Not enough?
Not enough.
You don't think so? This plan
Not at
is...
all. We're just getting started. Here's the reality. We have students who are in buildings that have been identified as DNF. We have students who are operating well below grade level. And until we have addressed all of the needs and the concerns of our students, I hadn't done enough. We have students who have learning disabilities. We have students who need more in terms of mental health therapy. We have students who are in alternative facilities who are not receiving the types of support they need because they find themselves in conditions that are beyond their control. We have so much more to do. And so, you know, if I give in to the idea that I've done a lot, that means I stop doing as much as I can, and I don't ever want to get to that point until we have a world-class school system people can be proud of, until Fortune 500 companies are banging on our doors saying we need to deploy our business in an area where there are really good public schools. It's the cornerstone of the American way, and so we have to continue to do as much as we can. So no, I don't sleep a lot. I talk to any and everyone who will listen. I was at the governor's prayer breakfast this morning having conversations with people about what we're trying to accomplish. So we still have a lot to do. Every minute counts. Every minute counts.
And I thank you for actually bringing up the failing school grades, the DNF schools. I would like to know what your plan is for that, because what was it, a few months ago, not too far into your term as superintendent when you just started out, there was an email sent out about the dress code. And I think you even mentioned the failing school grades where you talked about no longer will we wear jeans. I don't want to misquote you, until we no longer have D or F schools, or was it C schools?
We won't wear jeans until we eliminate our DNF schools. And so This plan eliminates 4 F schools and 5 D schools immediately. Our teachers have consistently been working extremely hard, so we recognize we're going to see some improvements at some of our schools that are D and F, but we still have more work to do. And as it relates to, jeans and professionals wearing jeans, for me, it's about being a professional at all times. And at the central office, we have to be the example of what we want to see in our schools. And I believe if we want to be taken seriously, if we want people to support us as professionals, we need to look like professionals. And so for me, it's about dressing and looking the part. And so, sometimes we have to provide incentives for people to go the extra mile. I know folks who work in our profession like to wear jeans, and that's an incentive. If you really want to wear jeans, help me, help us, help children so we don't have DNF schools. DNF schools should be unacceptable for all of us who live here. And in my opinion, all of us should be working extremely hard to address that. Not just say it. Are we volunteering in schools? Are we sitting down helping students read? Are we doing all we can? I had a conversation with a young lady last night, and she said to me, sometimes it's the kids, it's never the kids. Sometimes it's the conditions that our children find themselves in where they aren't receiving the right types of support. And are we taking the responsibility to provide the right type of support? Are we reading to our children as much as we should be? Are we spending time with them practicing sight words at the early ages as much as we should be? Are we sitting down with young children, helping them learn how to write and spell their name? Are we asking them to memorize their address and their birthday and the months of the year? And are we doing all we can? Is this news station at some point every day at the end of a segment encouraging families to read to their children? Is the news segment encouraging families to practice multiplication facts? What are we doing? Are we doing all we can? And I would submit to you, we're not doing all we can do more. And so this is our effort to do more.
Yeah, I think when you were still with the council, you used to end every meeting with what saying? Every
single meeting, I would say, read to your children. Every single night, I read to your children. And after you read to them, have them read back to you. It is the best way to increase reading comprehension. And it's an easy thing to do at the end of the night. And it's a way to spend time with your children. And it's a way to show them education is important. And it's a way to help them learn more words, learn about stories, teach them valuable lessons, and begin to frame the way they choose to live their lives.
And Superintendent LaMont Cole, you have said a lot sitting here with me, but is there anything else that you would like to say?
Well, I'd just like to say to those who have questions about our realignment plan, who are critical of our attempt to put students first, to really think about where we are. We didn't get here overnight. All right, I have been studying what has taken place in the education system in Baton Rouge for a long time. I go all the way back to when the desegregation lawsuit was filed by George Eames in the 50s. And we think about how long that case lasted. It's one of the longest running deseg cases in the country, right here in Baton Rouge. When it ended in the early 2000s, what happened as a result of forced busing, what happened as a result of the attempt to integrate schools, what happened when that didn't work, what happened when families started to leave. I understand all of the steps that took place in this community, and when Zachary broke away, when Central broke away, when Baker broke away, and now St. George is attempting to break away. I think, we have to think about all of what's happened that's gotten us to this point. And then in some spaces and cases, we continue to do the same. But with all these different things happening since 2000, and technology has taken off, social media has taken off, and now we're in the AI age, we have to think about what are we going to do differently in order to meet the needs of our students. So our plan is a student first plan based on what we know they are exposed to and how we can better support them based on all of the things we know. Cannot do the same. Failure is not an option, and ultimately, if it can be done eventually, it must be done immediately. And this is our attempt to immediately address the needs of our students by making them first.
Well, thank you so much, Superintendent LaMont Cole, for joining us right here at WBRZ Studios to tell us all about your very big realignment plan.
Thank you so much. I sure enough appreciate you.
And once again, everyone, you can stay tuned right here on WBRZ to find out how everything works out. The board will be voting on his plan in May. We will keep you updated. Thanks for tuning in.